Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 19th of November 2021 and it's the day of the full moon and also a lunar eclipse this morning. I was expecting, I've got to be honest with you, even though we're seeing obviously La Palma going absolutely crazy at the moment, I was expecting to see a lot more earthquakes today. And you know, I've got ideas and theories as to potentially why it's not as hectic as I'd imagine it to be, but primarily really because the object that I've been chartering, well, there's been lots of objects I've been chartering, but the specific object that is coming in at the moment, we can, you know, we've talked about this a lot. Last year it was. Last year we saw this this was Calvin Looking for Hobbs posting this on around about October the 15th. He posted it, I seem to remember. And this is, as we often discuss, I'm just wondering if we've got a shot of it there. You can't see it very clearly there. But this was the shot that Alex Luhan posted on the 1st of September 2019, the year before Calvin Looking for Hobbs shot. And, you know, I'd come to America at the time of this flyby in 2017 because, you know, I was put on the map really because of the previous flyby on the 20th of January 2017 on Trump's inauguration. And so this flyby that we're experiencing now, is the first flyby of the first object of all the objects, the one that was called the Dobbs object. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at some of the images that have just come in over the last week, and maybe I've just got to go down and find it down there. There we go. So we're going to start. We've got a lot of things to cover, so let's just have a little preview of all the different objects and everything else going on. So we're going to start here with Stefan Silviu Constantinescu. I so hope I'm getting better at pronouncing your name. But an amazing shot. In actual fact, he caught the same thing on a webcam the following day. And isn't it interesting that this object has come back now? So it's come round and come back. And so we're going to be discussing that. We're going to be discussing the orbits and the positions of that, and how and why it's come round so quickly around the object that it's actually really orbiting. We're going to explore that again. We're going to explore this shot, which was Turkey Report shot, came on the 14th of November. I'll just come in on that. You can just see it hiding behind there. And that's up in Alaska, I believe. At what time was that? It was sunset. So, and then we're going to be taking a look at this shot. We've got lots to talk about because this is that same object. This, I'm of mind, is this same thing, the same, or not that shot there from Brandon Corey, also posted on the 11th of November. So we've got a lot of different objects coming in and going out now, and I'm going to cover a little bit about the kind of two super soul highways that actually we are kind of currently sitting on, and hopefully this is going to make a little bit more sense as we go along. But I was going to say that wasn't the shot I was looking for. That was the shot I was looking for. The Matt Rogers shot on the 12th of September 2001, and this was just before it flew out, as in to return to what it really orbits. And that was in that was in 2020 on the that was, sorry, in 2020. That was the Steve Rady shot on the 20th of July 2020. And Steve Rady sent me another shot, and if I can pull it up and find it, I'll put it over the top at a specific point quite recently. But this was this year of it. You know, we'd had the big volcano in Iceland, because this thing was running parallel, and we're going to look at the you know, basically, you know, this has moved a little bit more than a month in 1 year. It's moved further forward a month in 1 year. So we're going to come a little bit more to that. Let's return to my browser for a shake. Yeah, we're going to explore this shot. Look what's happening, and it's reaching up. Now the sun's over here, so we're going to try and work out what planet that is by looking at. We could probably almost work it out now, because this is. We got to remember that when we're looking at the sun from, say, have we got America there? Yeah, say we're looking at the sun from America, for example, here, which is obviously in the northern hemisphere. We've got the moon back here. We're at a full moon. We've got Mars just beyond there. We understand that this is the morning. The Earth is moving that direction, not that direction. So that would be, come back to America, that would be sunrise in America on that side. And then if I come over here, that is, yeah, look, that is sunset in India there, in the northern hemisphere also. So you can see that from this perspective, anything to the right, sunset, anything to the right of the sun is in the northern hemisphere. And if you're viewing from up here, everything above the sun is also in the northern hemisphere. But if you're viewing the sun from, say, India, and you're seeing anything on the left-hand side of the sun, you're seeing the southern hemisphere, and vice versa on that side. Okay, so let's just keep going. We're going to come back to some of these shots. Two suns appear in sky. When was that? That was on the 15th of November, posted by Ultramix, Ultramix TV. Lots of debris again. That was posted on the 14th of November by Brandon Corey Nagley. This was that was another shot by Stefan Silvia Constantinescu. Hopefully, again, I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And this I just wanted to stop on. I just wanted to, because we're going to open up this discussion, we're going to kind of look at all these different positions and why they're back and what's going on exactly, I think right now, and a lot of other things that are taking place. But just check, this was posted by Nick Thomas, who's been following, really, obviously a massive Planet X filmmaker. But he's been putting a lot of attention into La Palma just lately, as I have a little bit, but possibly not quite as much focus as Nick just lately. But this was a really, really interesting shot. Just look at the way instead of the magma coming out the side and just oozing down the side of the mountain, look at the way in which now the magma is shooting up into the air, super high temperature. Imagine this was an asteroid coming into our atmosphere. You know, admittedly, imagine this was an asteroid coming into our atmosphere and breaking up as it hits the air. The air kind of gets into the molten ball of the meteorite, which glows red hot. It breaks through our atmosphere very hot, and then it gets oxidized. It burns up. Look at the way it spews up, and it's all just turned into, it's being burnt off and turned into a fine dust, even when it's not projecting that high. So you can think, you can think of like volcanoes, like let's get rid of that one for a shake, and we're just going to come over, and I just want to play you this, let you hear this for one shake.
Erupting. This rebound in activity has come after a downward trend in several indicators of the volcano's activity. According to experts, the increase in seismicity combined with high ash output, which triggered an alert of unfavorable air quality levels, could be due to a readjustment of the volcanic system. So far, the Cumbre Vieja volcano has spewed the same amount of sulfur dioxide in 2 months as 28 European Union countries produced in 2019, according to experts from the Volcanological Institute of the Canary Islands and the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. When assessing the sulfur dioxide output, the scientists concluded that the Spanish volcano was emitting 7 times more gas than the EU combined.
It's really going off at the moment. It's really, it's a major eruption that's happening again, and it was all starting to quieten down. And of course, this is coming up to that point of the full moon, and this will amplify if there's anything there. And so look, I've got here. We've got here Kepler's laws of planetary motion, and we are going to come back, hopefully, if I can bring all this together, we're going to come back to some of this. But I just want to, first of all, explore, well, more than, before we come back to that shot, I want to explore this shot now a little bit more. I want to break this shot down. We've got the sun here. It's the sun's at the right hand side, and it's in the morning. I know that because I checked earlier. So it's in the morning, and so I want to come over here, and it's from Alaska. So let's we've got North America up there. Did I just get that right? I think I did. So we are kind of at that sort of angle. We'll keep the sun just above the horizon there, and so we're looking at the sunset from that perspective. And as you're looking to the sun, it's on the right below the sun. So we could go a little bit more like that, and it's on the right below the sun. Sorry, the right below the sun. So from our perspective, it's it would appear to be over here, as if it's, well, I'll show you the route. I'll show you the route. But what I really want to do is I want to talk a little bit about what I call kind of angles of intention again, and to remember that. Notice that when we, let's just quickly go over to Kepler's laws again. sorry about this, before I do that, and just to very briefly give my synopsis as to um, as to my understanding, the simplest form. We're not going to throw any complication. It's all here if you want to take it deeper, and I'll go through it. But the first law: the orbit of every planet is an ellipse with the sun at one of the two foci or foci. I think it's foci. So, but can you see that the sun isn't dead center in the orbit? It's forward. There's a front end. And the reason the front end is because this object is moving. And you know, as it just be going statically around it. And we kind of show our models of the solar system as it being a very concentric rotation. So the second rule is the second law: a line joining a planet and the sun sweeps out equal areas during equal intervals of time. So that's not that drawing here. This is Kepler's third rule, but his second rule would mean that if I run a line from, say, here down through the center over to here, and run a line down from the center down over to here, the speed seems to increase here and decrease round here, and yet the amount of area scribed out from a triangular point from the rotation, just like here, but running straight through the center and over here, will always be the same. Meaning, though it seems to lose speed and gain speed in and out, it's not really losing speed. It's just, it appears that way, but there's actually no loss of energy in this equation. And so a better way of seeing that, before we talk about the third rule, that is actually the ratio of the square of an object's orbital period with 1 cube of the semi-major axis of its orbit is the same for all objects orbiting the same primary. So can you see that, you know, we've in this is Kepler. This was at the same time as Galileo. It's a very simple thing in that he has ascertained a link between the square of the orbit to calculate the distance from how far the object is orbiting. But of course, you know, that's the most simplest way I can put it. And to be truthful, every time I try and describe it, I make a right kind of like a right mess of it. But fundamentally, you can understand in this that if you had that law, is kind of all right if everything in the universe is made of the same kind of density. But you can imagine two objects orbiting the same thing, and one really heavy and one really light, are going to have a different different orbital kind of like circumferences, because their density is going to change a lot of things, and that's 84 years after Kepler and Isaac Newton, and after Galileo you have Isaac Newton who brought density and effectively gravity into that equation and moved it forward. But to really kind of see that in a motion, to really try to see that in a kind of a motion, if I run that, you know, let me just kill the sound on that. To run that in a motion, we start from, let's just go to the rear end of the of the orbit here, and we're going to count. Sorry, let me just pause that. We'll go to the rear end of the orbit there, and we'll just count 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 seconds that way, and to go back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's no real loss of speed or gain of speed. It's all to do with, there's nothing lost or nothing gained in this equation. But there is a seemingly a difference in the time it takes. Now, notice that for the model I'm using, I haven't incorporated, other than what's kind of naturally done in the programs that I use to build a lot of these animations. Like this is no doubt built on Newtonian science and blah blah blah, and but when I actually build these models across, we have a lot of added complications. And by that, what I mean is, let's go now to let's now take let's just go to this concept here. I'm calling this Hydra here, and you can see here Hydra. Let's go to 2004. Let's take Hydra to 2004. So it's just coming in here, and it's going to cause the tsunami, and in 2004 on Boxing Day, on the full moon, ironically, 26th of December. And then we're going to go forward, and we're going to go to 2008, and we see that 2008, the Sichuan earthquake that just brought down every building. Now this is the aligning point. So now we're going to come forward to 2016, and we're seeing it coming in over here, and we're seeing the 22nd of November, and I've built the model saying, it's going to be a big activity. I've shown the alignment, but it was a much more simpler version than this, based on the 200-day anomaly, which enabled me to start piecing this together, along with all the massive corroboration of other data that's come in. And you notice over here we have on October the 14th we have this over here, and this object and this object I now realize are the same objects. And so this is a little bit confusing, and what this means is that it's cut across like that. It didn't come in as quite as steep as that, and there's changes to this model, because this was built this time last year as we came into this point, and I'd have that shot I showed you at the beginning of Alex Luhan's shot on the 1st of September 2019, the game changer. Well, we haven't got that mod, that specific flyby in that yet, but I just want to talk about the big blue one, which is this one here. So that was 2016, and so we've been chartering it over to come, because if we saw it in 2016 here, then we know, because of the previous patterns, that we have the 2020 passage here. This was the Nick Thomas shot on the 9th of July 2020, where it sits in between us and the sun. And then we come to 2021, and it's tracking with us as it's coming round, getting closer and closer to us as it's coming round in the northern hemisphere, but going down to the southern hemisphere, cutting through the ecliptic to go back around the Pluto system from whence it really orbits, which is now just below. And we know that because of the big plasma bolt between Mars and whatever that big bright plasma shot that I nearly always show on my videos, and we'll show that in a shake when we come to it. But I just want to talk about this. Stay with Hydra here, because Hydra's come around here, or whatever you want to call it, Jupiter, this big striped planet. It's come around here. It's caused the Icelandic volcano, and it's come up, and it's very quickly. Well, let's go forward now to where we are. That was Nick Thomas shot again, 2020, and then we come around here, and this was my predicted pathway. But what's actually happened is it didn't come out in July, August. It actually has got it was much closer to our sun, much closer to our sun, and it's come out over here. And so the next time I redo this model, everything's going to be brought a little bit tighter. Everything's going to be brought in. We're going to correct all these mistakes. But I thought I'd just show you that how now this has come back round again, and because it's so much tighter than this, it's coming across. It's coming much faster. And the reason why it's coming much faster is much to do, as I'm showing you, with understanding a little bit more about Kepler's laws, because as it's coming down here, it was going slower because these are the angles of intention. See, this is Pluto, and its angle of intention, its line. This is its orbit. And this is the sun. This is its orbit. It's not exactly a line there perfectly, but this is its orbital line. But this is its angle of intention. Planet X is also going forward. That's its angle of intention. All of these objects are all their actual primary orbits are the Milky Way. That's what they orbit. And that means that effectively all of these objects are their primary orbits are with the Milky Way, and all of these moons around them could arguably, this is what Nassim Haramein says, even though he kind of puts the model in a slightly different way, but I think he's just trying to emphasize the fact that ultimately you could also say that Earth's primary orbit is also the Milky Way, and that it is locked into the same type of relationship with our sun that our sun is with Pluto. And you're seeing this object now coming round much tighter than I'd anticipated, because of I'd just never been able to get my head around the idea that this big blue object had actually come in and come round our sun. You know, this massive battle of kind of battling through this heliocentric kind of mind trap that we've all been in. But you can see, even though Earth is much further forward there, this object, that is 22nd January, February, that's August over here. You know, this object, basically I have got to move almost a month up further round and make a few changes, because ultimately this thing goes where it goes. It does what it does. All we're doing ultimately is every time we're getting a little bit of data, we're throwing it in and we're correcting it and we're correcting it and we're honing it down and honing it down and honing it down. And because this object was also this I call Jupiter, named after Galileo's Jupiter, whatever he was seeing. You know, let's look at let's just break that. Let's just break this down to. Well, actually, before we break this down, let's look at have a simplified view also of our big flyby that we need to be worried about right now is not the big blue one that's ahead of us. That's going to be September. August, September next year. You know, and that's a big one. That's a big one, and all of these objects are leveling out. All of them are leveling out, and this is the critical point. This has been the most difficult thing for me to understand in this model, because the data has been kind of there. It's just that suddenly everything is all coming in. All the big volcanoes are all constantly going off for like 6 weeks, 2 months now, which implies that these things are coming round and tracking parallel with us as they're coming round. They're almost on the same ecliptic plane, where originally when the Pluto system was up here and about to cut down through, as it did on the 14th of October 2016 with the classic Jeff P shot, all of the objects prior to that that were being affected by the sun were being pulled down towards the sun. Some were coming, most weren't going anywhere, weren't coming into our solar system in any way, but those that have now been coming so close, some of them have just come around like this and come very close, but at least one of them we know does that, and the rest have been drawn into our sun, and they accelerate around our sun, and then they obviously come back to what they're orbiting up here, and so you've got these kind of two kind of how do you throw that into Kepler's calculator, you know, and throw that, and then then you've got to add the fact that we don't know the density of these objects either, and we also need to consider the speed that our sun and whatever you want to call this object is. But can you see, have we got it on that model? There it is. So we've got what I call Europa. Excuse me. So we've got Europa here, what I call Europa, the one that the first big, is what Galileo said was the biggest moon of Jupiter, which he saw with a 30 times telescope in 1613, around about the same time as Kepler. You know, we discovered the first dwarf planet in 1596, and then 84 years after that, you've got Isaac Newton, and then 84 years after that you've got William Herschel, and 84 years after that you've got Neptune, and 84 years after that you've got Pluto, and 84 years after that pretty much you've got Eris. You know, so you've got this pattern here, and we're going to try and come back to that, and we're going to try and bring angles of intention and inclinations into this now. So it's getting a little bit more complicated, but so let's talk about the 2017 where I came out to America. So that is this object here. Can you see Europa coming over here, and Earth is here, and this is when, you know, the ESO records the gravitational anomaly detected at the LIGO center, you know, at the same time, and we see it on both sides of the Atlantic, and you know, and we had amazing shots of it, and obviously now it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger. 2018, you know, that we had the big tsunami in Indonesia, and I've made the video before saying, you know, you cannot tell me there's not going to be oceanic anomalies at this time. This is getting a little bit boring back then, you know what I mean? And then 2019, obviously you had like I say, you had that shot, and you also, on the 1st of September 2019, and I said, look out for guys, you know, we're doing this one again, and there it was, and it was a game changer because we could see that it come in here, we're expecting to go around the sun, and it had come in and gone out to the right. And I'm sorry to repeat this right now, but it's, guys, you got to understand that that's going that way right now. This was in 2019, it's going this direction, and we are over here, kind of like, see how it's heading, it's kind of heading up, if you like. But then you've got to think about the positions of the webcam as well. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that because I put up the times of that exactly. But I think I've pretty much done the work there. But I want to go to the seeing it. You know, the Because it was that shot. Oh, I haven't got it there. There was the twins coming in. That was, well, we'll come back to that because it's getting a bit confusing. Oh, there it is. And that, oh, it's too short. That's why I didn't have it. But they, ironically, Alex Luhan posted on the 3rd of July that shot there. And that was it coming in 2019, and then so we'd seen this, but this, I was seeing this proximity always as the only way I could really see it was because we look at everything on these ecliptic planes, and that's how we kind of see our solar system. That's how we've been brought up, and it's, you know, I obviously incorporate inclinations all the way through this, but this has been what has been happening is it has changed the model a lot, really, and it hasn't changed it that much, but you can see all the type of sort of changes. So that was 2019, and then obviously, like I say, the kind of big shot in that was massive shot of the same object in 2020. 15th of August 15th of October 2020, and so we stay with Europa there. 2018. See where we're coming out here. Well, I've got a funny feeling that I've got this wrong as well, because I've got Europa. I had the Europa orbit here, also confused with quite a lot of the. There's going to be there's going to be a subtle change. There's going to be quite a few subtle changes. Obviously, in this one, I've tried to break all the flybys down and delete quite a lot of the flybys, just to simplify it a little bit, but. So I'm of a mind it's carried on and more come out here, over here. That's where, so we come down to 2019 and then 2020 and this is the flyby. Now I've got Earth down here and this going off here. I'm of a mind that this object is actually arcing over to here, and the shot I got on the big one that put me, the big flyby that put me on the map, the big one on the 20th of January 2017 on the day of Trump's inauguration. Excuse me this without the overlays, but I just thought this would be a little bit easier. That was actually this one coming in. It wasn't the other one, Hydra, coming across doing that. So in the next model, there's going to be a lot of changes, and hopefully when I piece together the next model and I try to show the inclinations now, and also how they've moved down as a result of this, as a result of the Pluto system going from above the ecliptic plane that we're orbiting the planet X system, and going down and through, and after this, all the objects will then start coming from below and coming up towards our sun, whilst we're in close proximity to that. But you know, this whole winding up, let's just have a look at the grand winding of that. So we've done that, and then we know after that we've now got the Kerberos and Chiron flybys, and they're the ones that caused Fukushima and the 8.8 earthquake in Chile on the 26th. No, it was on the 27th of February 2010, the year before, and it was the 27th of February 2010, and then 26th of February 2010 was when the Icelandic volcano went off and stopped all the air travel. Massive release. And now you think about all the volcanoes that are absolutely spewing out of the earth right now. Absolutely spewing. Throwing more pollution into the air. And they're talking about sulfur dioxide. Very toxic. But, you know, sulfur, if you're spewing out loads of sulfur dioxide, then you've got to be realistic about the amount of carbon dioxide you're spewing out. You know, it's lower on the periodic table. It's going to be burning off the carbon very quickly and moving up to sulfur and everything else like that. This thing is pumping out carbon dioxide in greater volumes. Remember that, you know, if we're seeing, let's come back to what would it be? I suppose this was a speech by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales at the opening ceremony of the COP26 Glasgow. So so here we go. So we know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt, simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector. And, you know, we can see the kind of direction they're going, and we know what's on the table here. We all know what they're all trying to push. 16 new mini nuclear power stations, and of course you pop up a mini nuclear power station, it's very easy. Once you get one, you can always pop another one next door and another one next door to that, and they're all very ergonomic, right up until the point where the pumps fail because there's an earthquake and a CME that melts all the windings, and they just don't know what to do, and they're trying to switch the pumps on, but no one's willing to look at the real elephant in the room. So no one's really willing to acknowledge that. So we just see Fukushima going bang on the day of a massive earthquake, and we see the same with Chernobyl on the 26th of April 1986, same time as, ironically, Halley's Comet. Are we surprised? You know, so we can see that building nuclear power stations on fault lines and tsunami hotspots to stop the carbon dioxide absolutely spewing out of volcanoes is just, it's greenwashing. It's total greenwashing. Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Oh, that's quite interesting as well. I just stopped that because we'll come back to this as well, because we've seen that. Well, now I've stopped on that. I saw that and I just thought, oh my god, that reminds me of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Who posted this? It was posted by Third Phase of the Moon. City-sized UFO invasion of unknown origin over our world, 2021. Buckle up. So I just found that quite interesting. These four objects appear, and it's like they're reflecting light, or they've got light. Now, could these be the planets that are coming in? I just truly don't know. Maybe they are just all UFOs. But for the first time, because all of these things are now coming to the ecliptic plane of our solar system, as they start to come in, they are entering into, you know, most of space is lost in light. Light is the biggest story because we orbit a sun. So when something finally comes in on the ecliptic plane and it comes into our tiny bit of space where we get a view beyond that light, then we know that its objects are coming in that fashion. And ironically, 3 different people may have seen the same celestial object that looked like a mini sun. You know, this was on November the 18th. When was that? That was on, that's it, when it was premiered 19 hours ago. Well, we'll have to look when that was, but I think it was around about the same time. Oh, does it say? No, it doesn't say the date, and it must be me. It's obviously, you know, I'm doing this video now, so November the 18th, terrible lava flow from La Palma volcano eruption reaches ocean after crashing settlements. Now, obviously, you know, that's obviously it's all the lava's already reached the ocean, but this is one of these new ones. You know, there was one stream of lava that had already reached the ocean, then another, and this is the third big stream, and the massive eruptions, and the massive eruption, and also the most amounts of earthquakes they've had in one day in the entire 2 months it's been going off over the last couple of days. So there's something big, which means that this object is still in the northern hemisphere. So
No, on the Canary Island.
Sorry. So okay, let's go now to the model and look at the let's look again at the running from Galileo over here. We've got Pluto ahead of us. Remember that we've come from the point of Christ. Only 00 or 19 minus 19 years before. Just because that's when our calendar is running from at the moment. So I thought that was so interesting because that's supposed to be around about the time of Christ. I'm not a Christian. I'm not coming to this from a Christian perspective at all. But I do think it's very interesting that 200 and in 262, you have earthquakes all across Asia, all across Africa, and all across Europe, and this close alignment that it's just like Jesus for me was like Galileo saying that this massive thing was going to come. And we're seeing all the same sort of things. So the only way I can make these models work, to make all these alignments work, is notice they're going around. Our sun's going to go around 6 times, and this is going to go around 5 times before they sync up again. And so on the 5th time, which is here, we're getting this is Galileo's time, Kepler's time. This is the discovery of Ceti B and Mira, and this is the crossing point where we go from where the Pluto system comes from underneath us and goes over. But we're not calling it the Pluto system here. We're here, some are calling it Ceti B, Mira. Some are calling it Jupiter. Galileo's calling it Jupiter, but he's put under house arrest. He's never allowed to speak to another member of the public because he says he can see it right there, just like we're seeing it right there, over and over and over again. So we've got 84 years, and we're going to the crossing point again. And then we go another 84 years, and it's not exactly 84 years. It's 1781, which is not exactly halfway to William Herschel discovered it in 1781. Ironically, that's around about the same time that Vesuvius was going off, so and also very close to the time when La Palma was also going off. Also, ironically, that in Isaac Newton's time in 1681, around about that time, La Palma going off, and then we go back to Galileo's time, and all around that time, when we had the big tsunami that came in on the 20th of January, 2000. Notice around this time, the big date that keeps coming up is the 20th of January. It was the 20th of January 1606 that the big tsunami struck that could have been so much bigger than we've ever really kind of comprehended, but it struck here in England, and but La Palma, and then we come back to this point here. We didn't get a big these kind of points here. This is our Neptune point, 1846. And so we're seeing something big coming in. We know we're getting all the effects of it. 1859, 1859 is the Carrington event. Every electrical machine kind of just melts, just like the wiring in Chernobyl and Fukushima. The pumps failed because they melted. They couldn't make the pumps work. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have this in their computer because they couldn't accept this. So they just had to watch on and pretend that this wasn't going on. But let's go to 1846 again, and remember that 1846 is, the orbit of Neptune is supposed to be 165 years. So you think about, 1846, we add 84 exactly, we come to 1930, add another 84 years, we're pretty much around the time of Eris, pretty much coming up to now. Minus 84 years doesn't exactly take you to William Herschel's kind of discovery of Uranus, which is ironically 84 years. But you remember Pluto is supposed to be 165, minus 165 years from 1846, and you come to, ironically, 1681, which is when, as I'm saying, Isaac Newton seeing the these moons. He's saying it's Halley's Comet, but there's multiple objects that people were observing, and it was just finally boiled down to one. Just one comet, Halley's Comet. We discovered Halley's Comet, but clearly orbiting something. So 165 years, 1846 minus 165 years, we come to exactly Isaac Newton's time. Minus 84 years from there, we're coming to Galileo's time. Add 84 years from there, we're coming to William Herschel's time. Do you see what I'm saying? If we, in actual fact, if you go to 1846 and you add 165 years, you come to 2011. You come to the day Fukushima, the year Fukushima went bang. It is absolutely, there's a perfect pattern here. It's absolutely irrefutable, perfect pattern here. That we may not really kind of fully comprehend this big passage. You see from this perspective here, you've got this passage here, crossing passage here, and this crossing passage over here, which means that this is the front end. This is where all of these objects are coming around the front of. This is what Kepler would going on about, where he would apply his rules. Except that, like I say, he was always basing his mathematics on all of these, in this case he would say that our sun, and that he wouldn't probably postulate this model, I don't know, but he would work on the assumption that Pluto here in this model and our sun, this would be their primary orbital relationship. What I'm trying to tell you is that what happens if the Milky Way is their primary relationship? How does that change all of the configurations of our orbits? And this is really the big inquiry that Nassim Haramein has opened up, because through this you start seeing the connectivity. Not only do you start seeing your place in the universe, but you start seeing your connectivity to the greater universe when you start seeing from this perspective. And this is a fantastic opportunity to ask for help from a higher hand, coming from a place of knowing your place in the solar system, in the bigger system, in the tertiary system. It's not even a binary system, it's a tertiary system. It's whatever you want to call it, but that brings us kind of up to date really of where we're at. Apart from, what evidence do we have of the object actually coming in now, other than the type of storms that we're getting, the flooding that we're getting? I found this quite an interesting shot. It's not so revealing, I'm afraid, because you've got to remember that this object we're seeing coming in is in between us and the sun right now. And so it's very, very, very difficult for us to get a window on it right now. But Seven Spalding caught an amazing shot of it in the morning on the 16th. Now, it's not conclusive. I know in my heart of hearts that that's what it is. And that's getting closer and closer and closer to us. You can see the tail of it there, and you can see the tail of it there, and it's seemingly flying out over there, because it is what it is. We'll all see different things, and most people will probably tell me that's a cloud, but I don't believe it is. I believe that it's this is taken by Mr. MBB 333, and this is at sunset. And so we're seeing, if we come back over to that, because we're looking on this side, even though this object is actually coming, if we just put that down here and we come out, even though this object is coming out across here, it's not coming out from here, it's come around here. It's well, it's due to come here. Sorry, my lights have just gone off there, so I'm obviously using all my battery power up. It's come across this sort of path here, and it's around about here, coming out. And so it's between us and the sun, very, very difficult to see. But that Mr. MBB 333 shot is from that perspective, looking at the sun. So all these objects, the tail of it has come. It's going to go like that. It's not. You would think it would keep, if it's coming in there, it's going to be going towards the sun. And this is what I'd always believed. And like I say, that Alex Lewin shot on the 1st of September, it blew my latest models out the window, and I had to start long configuration of trying to reconfigure that. We'd already been talking about the ideas of a non-heliocentric model and trying to kind of grapple with ways of even kind of playing with that as an idea. And so this is as far as we've come, really, but that's where it's coming. It's coming around here, and we're going around here. So, you know, big stuff basically is afoot. Big stuff is afoot. And, you know, I just want to also show, even though it doesn't seem relative or anything else like that, but you know, I watched a series the other day and I found it so interesting. It was called The Money Heist, and I don't know if any of you have watched it, but there's some images of some of the different scenes. You can see the sort of faces. It's very kind of like, it's very reminiscent of V for Vendetta, and the storyline kind of, you know, you know, a bit of a spoiler alert, but I'll try not to give too much away about it, but it's so interesting what it's playing, because this is the most watched series in Europe while the shit is hitting the fan and we're going into our next big lockdown and the shit is seriously going down. We have to understand what is going on and why these different things are happening. And this series, a bunch of, you know, this here is the detective that came to bust the bank robbers that was employed or sent to, you know, that was her assignment was to bring the bank robbers in, and there she is. She's joined the bank robbers, and the reason she's joined the bank robbers is because she and all the people in Europe fall in love with the bank robbers, because they've gone into the bank, they've taken everyone hostage, the bank staff, the customers, and that sort of stuff. They've also got all the government's top secrets that are kept in the safe. So they've got the government where they want them, and they're printing off. They've taken over the printing press, and they're printing off from the Federal Reserve. It's not the Federal Reserve. It's like the Spanish bank where they print the euros, and they're printing off with their own numbers the same amount of money that the banks print off when they just bail themselves out of trouble, and they just give themselves they print off all this money and give themselves all this money, and it's all fiat-based money, and they're just buying up all the world's assets, and everyone is running around like blue-ass flies while they're just getting it all for free, and they're just showing you they're doing the same thing as the bankers are doing, and everyone starts changing side, and it's a real interesting look at fiat-based currency. But of course, if the euro goes down, you know, what is the US dollar's worst enemy, really? It's the euro. It's the greatest threat. And if the euro is to come down now, and the dollar, because they're going into something new, this feels very much like it's a very powerful prepping kind of idea that could be the end. You know, if you wanted to feed all the countries into Europe into the same free trade deal as Britain is being dragged into, or certainly as Britain is dragging the rest of all these other countries into, if you wanted to go into if you wanted Europe to be in those free trade deals, you not only have to break the European alliance, you'd need a tool to break it. And what better to break the European alliance than to break the euro? And you know, Christmas is being cancelled. You know, I'm in Bath at the moment. I've got my boat in Bath. I used to sell puppets in Bath years ago. It was the most, you know, so many people relied on that. That was their main income. It was a big, you know, massive investment to do the markets. Same with the German market. It's all cancelled, and this is all industries. So many industries across the board that are just being wiped out. Many shops are going to go empty after this now. It's just going to be, you know. But we also understand that there's a real fear of something big coming in, and then we've got a series like this going on. And also wanted to talk about this. You know, we talked about Carlos Ferrada's time, where Carlos Ferrada's time in terms of this model was, if I got that right, if we go back to here, this is 1930. Pluto discovered in 1930, and then 1939, Carlos Ferrada's massive prediction that that an earthquake would occur in Chile on January the 24th, 1939, and it happened on January the 20th. I forgot that the right way around. Yeah, it happened on January the 20th, but he was 4 days out because the full moon was on the day of the earthquake, and that's a real indicator that when we're at the full moon point, this thing really amplifies if it's in real close proximity. So the fact is that, okay, La Palma's gone off. We're getting crazy storms on the west coast of America now, coming in from the Pacific, which means that the Emperor Hawaiian Seamount chain is seriously going for it. Those underwater volcanoes are also massively releasing lots of magma at the moment, massively heating the oceans from the Pacific from below, creating massive precipitation, which is going to go up, and that's moisture going up into the air, which is going to condense on these tiny particles that's coming from these volcanoes and create massive rain also, as well as massive releases of carbon dioxide and that sort of stuff. They're rainmakers. So we had that big flyby exactly when Carlos Ferrada said it would go by, and then he said it would turn up again in 1999. Coming around here basically in 99. And crossing at these, remember, I'm just showing one of the objects orbiting, the big object that's orbiting this in this model. I'm not showing, and as we get closer and closer from 1999, what actually happens is it comes right round our sun. It gets so close. That's this big Jupiter-esque planet that we're seeing coming in and going right round. Obviously, it's been coming up and going down, under and back like that, but now, because the whole system, like I say, has gone to the same level as the ecliptic plane, it's coming like that and come actually in and around, and it's leveling out as I'm showing here, rather than coming down towards, it's coming in. So, and that's the same with all of these objects orbiting this system. They're all now coming on the level, they're all coming in, sinking onto the same level. It's very, very, the reason I showed you the four horsemen of the apocalypse, whatever they call it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, all these biblical stories are based on the fact that this thing is a very real planetary thing, and religious institutions have taken it over and used these stories to drive humanity completely the wrong way often. But remember, just Carlos Ferrada's prediction after the dragon. You remember the original Hobbit series was all about the dragon coming and just, it was hell on earth until the dragon was gone, until the dragon was slain. In 1939, the dragon flew by, and in The Hobbit, we see after the dragon dies is the battle of the 5 armies. All the armies can come out and fight now. The big angry god that controls the platform has gone, which means everyone can come out and do what they like, and without major repercussion, because the dragon's not there anymore. And it's really, really important to remember that. And so there's a real encouragement to you can really see that there's a lot of, ironically, on the full moon we hear that the QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley is sentenced to 41 months. This is when the people are most likely to be really angry, feeling the anxiety of all this and everything else. They're desperately trying to stir up anger and aggression and anything they can do to get the people to get angry and incite violence and hatred, to bring our vibration down at this time. All of this is about trying to control. When I wrote my book Laughing Gas, it was all just basically, we come to a wall and nothing gets past this wall that is of war. And ultimately, that, you know, when I said I just wanted us to understand what the hell's going on, I was told by my connection to the gods, you know, through ayahuasca originally, and obviously parents that channel, as I often talk about, and then my developing my own kind of like writing techniques, if you like, to kind of open up my doors to communicate with my highest aspects, was the answer I was given was, put simply, your earth will no longer support duality. You've got to be one or the other. Duality ends. You're going to be one or the other. You can't be. There's not going to be a duality on this planet anymore. No more backseat drivers, and that's the way this is. That's ultimately the way this is going. And so, you know, he was just following his truth, and he's a symbol of someone. You know, I'm not really into the whole QAnon thing, if I'm actually honest with you, but I respect anyone who has has non-violent political intentions to come out. And the only way we're going to stop any of this is people having the right to speak up and protest. We've got to have protests. We've got to have people who have the right. You know, they went into you know, the crowd got a bit carried away, and there was a lot of excitement going on, and there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. But you know, it looked very peaceful. He didn't look gun ho, did he? He really didn't look gun ho. And so I think that I just don't know. I just think everyone should have their opinion, and if he was able to express his voice in a much more functional way, without all the kind of shutdown of kind of media and everything else like that, I'm sure, you know, I mean, he is doing a fantastic job, really, isn't he? For what he's done, he's got massive coverage of an issue. Hopefully, he's going to write books and just basically, you know, he took a stand on an issue, and I've got so much respect for him, really. So, but I'm not going to go out and get angry that he's done that. But I would definitely bring attention to the fact that we are being triggered to get angry at the moment, but oof, guys, it's crazy time. So I just don't know what to say about that. Do you know what I mean? But there he is, and he's a hero. He is a hero. He looks so humble there, doesn't he? He looks really humble in that picture there. Just like, not that he doesn't look humble here. He just looks gallant here, doesn't he? He looks gallant, and it's powerful imagery. It really is. It's the whole thing is very powerful. You know, anyway, there's a lot of triggers out there at the moment that are being put out one way or another, and the latest lockdown news and everything else like that. We're in a situation where we've got more flybys this year. You know, we've just got more flybys coming in right now, more in February, and another more in and more in September next year. It's going on, and our governments are, if I'm honest, the governments are absolutely terrified about the implications of what's happening up there, and this, ultimately, on a planetary level, is what the fuss is really all about. This is the tune that everyone's really dancing to, and this big flyby that's coming, this big next kind of flyby that, you know, has it's been a lot of confusion about it. This is going to is looking to be quite significant. I was expecting it to be well into the southern hemisphere by now, and it's still in the northern hemisphere, and it has to go down to the south. And if it's still in the northern hemisphere at this late stage, you know, what is the time of the passage of that? It's so difficult to tell. But guessing it's December or early January. Oh, makes me terrified, and we just got all the worries about lockdown here and everything else like that, and no one knows quite what to do at the moment. Scary times, guys, really scary times. But we just got to carry on. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and this will hopefully, all of that's going on at the moment will bring us together on a community level, and we just got to try not to get triggered by whatever it is out there. They're going to try and get us triggered to get angry about something, because the more angry we get, the more we give them the excuses to lower the vibration more and more, and we just got to navigate through these times now. And intuition is really important. Following your intuition right now, it's so important. You know, I'm so struggling just lately, I can't tell you. But you know, I've made another video now, hopefully, and hopefully this is going to go up. And you know, and what's the next moon alignment? Have I got it up there? I don't think I've got it up there, but I think it's around about the 3rd, maybe, of December, and we can see that being a quite a lot bigger, you know, bigger volcanoes. Whether this object will still be in the northern hemisphere, if it's still in the northern hemisphere, and if you know, because as soon as it goes down to the southern hemisphere, you understand the whole axis of this planet will shift very slightly, and Britain and everywhere in the northern hemisphere will suddenly jump into very, very cold, and that will be a big shift of the axis as it suddenly jumps across. It won't be. It will be a short-lived, because we've got another object coming in just after in February that will put it back again. So we'll be back into a very, you know, like a very early onset spring, in kind of like in February, but January will be very cold, or whenever this object drops down to the southern hemisphere. And if it passes us, well, I mean, it's just all going to be very interesting. So now we're going to come back to that shot, which I should have done probably earlier, and that's just that was Brandon Corey's video that he posted on the 11th of November, and this big red object coming in, and I'm of a mind that that is none other than Kerberos. You're seeing it coming in now behind us. Remember, I've got to bring this whole system a little bit further around here to make all of this work a little bit better. I've got it lagging around, and the reason I did that was because I'd made the orbits too big, and the whole thing has got to that whole, have I got it on there? Yeah, this whole orbital cycle has got to be condensed much tighter into the planet X, next to planet X. It's all got to be brought in a little bit tighter, and but that's it, folks. That's it. It's the latest update, latest shots, latest thoughts, and ultimately, again, you know, angles of intentions. And what are your intentions right now? What's your angle of intention within all of this right now? Honey in the heart, 1,000 thank yous. Sorry, I'm not being so terrible with communication with so many people. Really, just massively struggling myself just lately. Not really sure any real kind of plan for the future. Everything's really slow at the moment. Not really making headway as I really wanted to, but I've managed to get my boat, the new boat, down to Bath, where I can start finishing with the work on it. But it's kind of cleaned me out a little bit. But it's just trying to kind of work out solutions to deal with whether I'm doing the right thing. More for me right now, it's just about doing beautiful things and building homes and trying to, because I just, you know, I'm concerned it's all too late now and we've kind of missed the boat. And I don't want to sound negative or anything else like that, but it's looking really scary now. And it looks like this whole situation is going to unfold as it's looking like it is going to unfold. And You know, all I can say is, you know, if you know, pray, ask for the highest help to come down and help us at this time and help all of humanity, help you achieve your goals and ambitions right now. Bring it in. So much love, so much gratitude. Big golden rings of light, and try not to get too angry with the situation. Try not to get too triggered. Navigate carefully through this. Ciao.